A few hours later, the doctor came, they did the test, and she gave us the grim diagnosis that, I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do for her. And if we're to do any surgery, I'm not sure your daughter will be able to survive it because of other underlying complications. I saw her eyes, and she looked at me, and I knew she was normal. She had rested. But I could not process the pain and the markers, the trauma markers that were left in my body for those 14 days. If I knew she was going to die, I would not have let any single second pass without me being there. But I told God, I'm going to wait until such a time you will strengthen me. In the meantime, I'm going to still pray. My name is Lynnette Ayuma Owuor Kyalo. I am a wife. I am a mother of 4. I am also a pastor. I run a ministry with my husband known as Flick, Fulfilling Life in Christ Koinange. And on the corporate side, I am a business process consultant. So I do business process improvement and management and re-engineering. The main reason I'm here today is to talk about an experience that that actually almost shook my faith, and actually it did shake my faith, and it recreated a different structure or framework of my faith in God. I had prayed, I had believed, I had trusted for the healing of my infant little girl, yet at the end of it all, she still died. That journey was something I can never really fully express with words. But the little I will do today, I hope, will make sense to the listeners and, of course, even to me a couple of years from now. For me, growing up, I never quite saw myself as a mom. I'll be very honest. I am the last one of 5 children, and the gap between myself and my older brother is 6 years. And my parents had me when, of course, they were in their latter years. So I found everybody almost all grown up. Everybody either trying to become a preteen, or is already an adult, or is a senior adult. So I seemed to just be somewhere and existing, I think, from my perspective. So seeing myself as a wife and then a mom, like I watch people on TV, or I hear other ladies talk about how they had already started designing their wedding dresses and how many kids they would have. That was not really my focus. What I wanted to be was somebody impactful in society, make some money, just live a good life. I came from a Christian home, so of course my path was already charted for me, even though I got saved and backslid countless times. But at least I knew somehow God was an important factor in my life. But as a wife, a mother, no. However, as time went by, one of my sisters who was in Kenya, because I said there are 4 other kids ahead of me, so 2 were in the US, and then the other 2 plus myself remained in Kenya. They were in the US with my mom, and me and my dad are here in Kenya. Not because they separated, but because of economic times. It was during the Moi era, and everybody was, migrating out of the country to find a better, at least, future for their families. So my older sister, she got a child, I think, towards her mid to late 20s, and I was now old enough, at least, to be babysitter. The youngest, last ones, that's their job, basically. If you're not working, if you're not in school, or if you're in school during holidays, then you have to go and stay with your older siblings and help with work, etc. So I went to the hospital and I beheld her daughter, her firstborn daughter, and it was love at first sight. I was like, wow, this tiny thing. And I don't know, maybe it was that affiliation I had with her that particular time, because many people say that my niece and I look alike. But I fell in love. And the journey towards my accepting or starting to embrace motherhood began from there. Because then I would change her diapers, I'd help with the feeding, I would sing, I'd be frustrated with my sister when she was having her colic sessions as well. Like we were doing motherhood together, even though she was not my daughter from my womb. I called her my firstborn. And as years went by and she grew older and still as charming as a baby could be, I started imagining that, maybe this is a possibility for Lynnette, you know? But I can't have a child without a husband. So now marriage started becoming a thing. And I started thinking towards that, though I had a lot of opposing thoughts and imaginations in my mind by the time I was in campus. And when I finally now settled in my faith, I remember there's a woman of God who told me that it is God's desire that I should marry or get married and have children. And then now that affirmed everything, it was like a final rubber stamp that, hey, this is not you being delusional. It's not you conforming to the patterns and standards of the world, but it's actually God who has that plan for you. I viewed marriage as this big, enormous responsibility. And then I also felt I was too small of a person to fit into that role. Then the other external factor I could say is that while we were growing up, we could see conflict between parents and loved ones or friends or relatives, etc. And you're like, is it really necessary to get into that space if there's no love, peace, and harmony and good times? And I just started detesting that whole thing, the concept of marriage. And maybe prior to that is I had gone through a small session. I would call it small session, but of course in its magnitude, it's big. I had been sexually abused, and it impacted my view towards men. And I was like, okay, if from a tender age, boys would behave in such a way, how about when they're grown up? And what would that mean for me? And even when I entered the dating scene, I was not Miss Perfect as well, let me just be honest. I was a bit truant, very truant, especially in the relationship space. So I didn't honor marriage as God would want me to. I felt men use women, and therefore, as a woman, I can also use men. You know, let's put a balance in this power shift here. And now finding myself committing to one man for the rest of my life and having that uncertainty that there would be the perfect husband and I'll be the perfect wife and have a perfect family, it was very far-fetched. And worse still, because I was in the world, I wasn't born again by the time some of these formative ideas were being imprinted in my mind. So for me, I think it was the God factor that started shifting my warped ideology around marriage. And when she spoke about that, it kind of settled my heart that this is actually a good thing you can look forward to. My mindset started evolving. And I won't say I think. I know the Holy Spirit was doing a cleansing in how my perspective to relationships and with men as well. I didn't have any divergent sexual preferences at all. I was still very much heterosexual, but I just wasn't committal to that whole concept of marriage. So I remember one of the times I was really thinking and just meditating. I could remember the Holy Spirit telling me, you will find a good man, one who I would have set apart for you. But I didn't understand that because I'm in my 20s. What do you mean? Is this somewhere in a shelf, waiting for me to walk through a supermarket and then I pick him and all that? It was very foreign to me. But what it stirred up in me is like I was now going to be deliberate on who I was going to date. And as you would imagine that probably, her footsteps are ordered by the Lord and it was perfect. It was far from that. The first person I encountered in a relationship when I got born again, who was also a born again person, he messed up my emotions. I don't want to say emotionally abused me, but it now got me in a very uncomfortable space because I was thinking, if I faced this in the world, why would I come into the Christian space and meet the same kind of things? the person in himself was amazing. You know, he was very charismatic. He would speak to people, and they would just, everybody would be awed by his demeanor and everything he would talk about and his giftings. But when it came to now interpersonal relationships, where I thought we were in a relationship, it wasn't so. In fact, I think I was the only one in that relationship. And for him, he was calling me a very good friend. Where I was friend zoned, and I didn't know it was called friend zoning at that time until much later. So there was a book. Oh my goodness, it's evading my mind. Where I said, the concept was if he likes you or if he wants you, he will let you know. Basically, I'm trying to get the name of the book. When it comes back, I will share. But I read that book and I was marking signs, and I was like, okay, so clearly this person is not with me in this relationship. But I'm so attracted to him, and I was willing to do everything I could to make him choose me. And this time I'm still in campus. He was out of campus. He was serving in many ministries, but one anchor ministry, I don't want to mention it. But he was there. And I would go sometimes get his laundry. He would call me and say, can you take my clothes to the laundry? I would actually go and make dinner for him, and I think his brother, and at the time 2 brothers were staying with him. I was really trying to fit into that role of a potential wife, because hey, God said I would get married. And the funniest thing is that even in the prophetic utterance the woman had, she had more or less described the kind of man I would get married to physically. She couldn't see too many details, just key pointers like, oh, of course he's also a man of God, but from the physical sense, he's wearing glasses and he serves, you know? So lo and behold, I met this person and he's wearing glasses. I was like, that is the guy. Do you know, I actually was so, I don't want to say, engulfed in this whole dream that I asked God for the 3 fleece kind of setup. I told him, just like Gideon, these are the 3 signs I want to see. And if you confirm them, I know he's the one. And it actually happened. It was 3 signs. And I was like, devil, you are cutting short my destiny. This is my husband. So I'm going to do everything to ensure that I walk down the aisle with him. And it happened. I told God specifically I was going for an overnight vigil. A night vigil for worship practice. Hey, everything is like, if he says this, then he said it. If he treats me in this way, okay. And if he asks about something tomorrow, and he did, he asked about those things. He said it, he did it, and he asked. So I was convinced this was my guy. It didn't work out. He actually had several friends, female friends, who also believed the same thing as I. And eventually I got to find out that he was actually engaged in a not very pleasant way. And it just shattered my dreams about fidelity and marriage. And I was like, I'm not going to settle for a church person again. This is it. So I want to get married. God, thank you for saying he's a man of God. Maybe he'll get born again later. But for now, let's just do life. When we find that man who is looking like the guy you said, we shall get married and he will become the man of God. So I left it at that. It changed my perspective, but it was a painful realization that people were independent of sometimes God's will for them. They are independent. They can decide how they want to live their life, and it will definitely affect the people involved with them, people in close proximity. I was one of those people. After I left that relationship, because it was dramatic, even me, I was like, I can also bring some drama. Yeah, I got into a small season of depression, and I didn't go to church for almost a month. I had locked myself in my house for about 3 or 4 days, not getting food. It was one of my close friends at that time. I used to call her sis. She came to my window and knocked and was like, Lynnette, are you there? Because for 3 days I just gone numb, it was quiet, and I was dealing with it on my own. Though I had told the people who mattered in my life at that time that this thing is not working, so I just need some time alone. So when she came to pick me up, I got cleaned up and all that, but I still took some time from church. I took a month. I left my former church, one, not because of him, but also other things, but it just collided together. So I said, I'm taking a break. And I went back to work. I hadn't taken leave from work for the month, but those 3 days I was off work. But I went back to work and buried myself in my career. And I said, I'm going to do something for me. And it's not about a guy anymore for now. Let me just work. But in my working environment, I met somebody, and he was an amazing human being. But he was not of the same faith as I was. He was completely different. You know, when we are Christians, we live in this perfect bubble that, oh, it can be a Catholic or an SDA or a Baptist and stuff. But now when you step out of the Christian bubble and you are looking at somebody who has, their fundamentals are different, completely. Faith fundamentals are different. But he had the essence of a good person. He was kind and caring, etc. And he wooed me into this space. And one day he tells me, yeah, well, I'm into you and I want us to try something. I'm like, no, we're like this. Water and oil, we don't mix. But he insisted. And I was looking at, okay, just let's have a post-analysis of the previous relationship you've had or situationship you've had. This guy was of the same faith, but nothing like what this person is showing you. He was a good man. So I said, I'm going to give it a shot. And that thing went on for 3 years. And he even met my parents. I met his friends. Like, it was a big deal. The only thing that I hadn't done was to meet his parents, because his parents were completely adamant. They said, no, this is not going to work. You cannot marry, number one, a person out of your faith, and you're not marrying a person from Africa. That's not happening. So he was stalling because he wanted to sort of bring some, I don't know, see if we could just meet. At least let's just meet. So after the 3 years, I reached a point, I had a lot of conviction because I knew what my faith said. And I was waiting for this man to be transformed, and it was not happening. This man of God was not becoming the man of God. And I was like, I have to let this go. I have to let it go. So I did. As abruptly as it started, it ended, painfully for both of us. And between then, and when I got my husband, who I'm married to, I had interesting interactions. I'm still born again, but this part of my life, the relationship part, it wasn't glossy. It wasn't good. Everything else felt perfect. But here I went from atheists to agnostics to in-betweens to Islam. Like, my goodness, it was quite something. And I could tell that I was messing up. But I couldn't bring myself to now find a church person, because the church guys as well, wow. Either they were too intimidated by my demeanor. They thought I was, I was too much, if I could say that. Yeah, I'm tall. I look like a model. I'm not a model. And then I'm outspoken and everything. So they're like, that's drama. Red flags for a woman who's dramatic. And so these other guys were more accepting. They're in my career space. We think at the same level, same wavelength, just that our faiths are divergent. But then now God surprised me, because this guy, he gets guts, I don't know from where. He's of the same race as I am, same country, different tribe. He's not the profile that I had of a husband in terms of the physique. Yes, the truth was I'm tall, I'm looking for somebody taller. It's a stereotype that exists. I'm looking for somebody who's probably in my same career path, because yes, I'm in the logistics space, though I evolved from that into consultancy. So I'm looking for that kind of a person who's in that corporate space. Then this is a guy who's praised the name of Jesus, yes? But he has a hint of, he has this gist about him that's pretty interesting. And he speaks well, but he's shorter than I am. So my mom made fun of me, and she used to tell me this. She's like, can you stop putting God in a box? Okay? God will bring you the right person. It's not about height. It's not about all this. It's about the man who should value you and who should love you. But I'm like, Mom, forget it. God, I know my God. I know the God I serve. I will not ask him for bread and he gives me a stone. The bread I was asking for was what I needed. Let me just say that. And it didn't come in the form of bread, but it did come. And eventually, after a series, I think guys can watch that in Dating Stories, but the shorter version is that I said yes. And we got married. And he's been a blessing to my life. Not that we've not had our challenges, but he was what I needed for what God wanted me to be. When I got married to Peter, my husband, I think, of course, there's the premarital counseling, and we were trying to be inducted in this whole institution and how it should perfectly align with God's will. We didn't quite delve into how many kids do we really want. We both mentioned that we would like a fairly big family, but not like the exact number. I wanted about 5. He was looking about 3 or so. Yes, 5. Yes. And the irony is that I don't know how those 5 are going to start happening, because I was already over 30 years. So it was all going to be a sprint, not a marathon. It was going to be a real sprint, 100 meters. But yes, I wanted 5, and I'd start compromising to the point I was like, okay, fine, I can have 3 from my womb, and then 2 we adopt or something like that. But the conversation was out there. No pressure on it. We were okay with also going with God's flow. The only pressure that I felt internally, let me start with my internal pressure, was that I had imagined that I didn't want my children to have some of the flaws that I had carried, genetic flaws that I had, and mostly with my hair. And I know this sounds so petty, but for me it was a big deal. I wanted my kids to grow up with a lot of hair, to be born with a lot of hair, because I went through a lot of bullying because of the scarcity of my hair follicles on my head. Though now it's not a big deal, because thank you, Jesus, for the brilliant minds in the cosmetology world. They have done amazing stuff for people like us. But yes, I will talk about it here because I think it's important. Every thought that comes to you about family and children, I would rather that you speak it out and let God demystify it, or make it look like a non-issue, because it's really not an issue. But yes, so I wanted kids, mixed race kids, because it was guaranteed they were going to have amazing hair. Since I was not in that space anymore, I was like, thank God my husband has a full head. So if God, if he would be so gracious, please let them not take what I have, and let them take what their daddy has. So I voiced that to him. I remember telling him that. That was an internal conversation, or let me say expectation and pressure. But externally, I hardly remember anybody trying to impose their ideologies about children or childbearing per se. Just that vaginal birth, or birth, it's called VBA, I think. Vaginal birth, let's call it that, seemed to be more glorified than cesarean. So in my mind, I was also fixated that if and when I got pregnant, it has to be by that way. And there's no compromise. So my prayers, even before I met my husband, I would pray for my womb, and I would pray for my children, make very, very strong declarations about them. I knew that a Hebraic birth was my portion. The Hebraic women's birth was my portion. So I read books about that, supernatural childbirth, etc. And I knew this is where I'm going. So I didn't have other influences directly into that whole family setup perspective or directive, but mostly it came from what I knew was okay. And of course it was informed by society, but generally I was the one who was propagating those ideals into our marriage and our childbearing story. And you know, the funny thing, just is like everybody in my family, my siblings, all of them went through that. And my older sister, my elder sister has 2 boys, then the older sister has 5 kids, and all by the same methodology. None of them went through CS. My mom, of course, has 5 kids, and I'm like, these people are amazing. In my mind, I thought that was the marker of a strong woman, like ulifanya, and you're not afraid. Well, little did I know. I think it was 5 or 6 months from the time we got married, I conceived. And I was like, okay, surprise, but yay, we've done it. Like, great job. I'm going to be a mom, you're going to be a dad, and let the journey begin. I was like, wow. And even the way I broke the news to my husband, I was expecting him to have the same energy levels as me. The guy panicked. He was like, I think he thought my telling you I'm pregnant is like, here is a child. We've already done it here. Because he was confused. But for me, I was like, I'm going to do this. Since my niece, I have been waiting to be a mom. I had figured a lot of things out for myself. I think I started shopping when I was 4 months pregnant. 4 months into the pregnancy. I had written my list. I had an Excel sheet, like processed. Everything was perfect from pricing. I had done the whole procurement thing, gone to different shops, done my Excel sheet, written every list, everything. In case there's a price change, what should I expect? Okay, started dreaming about the home that would have, because that time we were in an apartment. I wanted us to move. So I was like, okay, so we have to find a X amount of bedroomed house. I want to design it in this way. Like, it has to be perfect for my child. I was eating healthy. By default, my body already expunges unhealthy ideologies in my first trimester. So I'm not going to eat any junk food. Naturally, I don't even force it. So you find I'm having soups and fruits. So I knew this is going to be a super child. Everything was super. I had a beautiful pregnancy. I was glowing. My weight was perfectly distributed. Apart from my walking style, which was very awkward, it started early. But other than that, I was like, we can walk it out. Let's walk it out. And we did. I was fine. And he was very supportive to the best of his knowledge. Remember, he had never walked this journey before. And he didn't have older siblings who could have male, who had gone through the same process and probably would have given him some wisdom or advice. He was just this good guy. Mependa and let's go. Yeah, I sincerely appreciate him, because in hindsight, when I hear of other women's stories and how they felt probably neglected in the 9 months, and I don't want to call it neglected per se, but they felt, it's a feeling. And I think also for me, sometimes in some areas I would feel neglected, but I will give him credit where it's due. When it came to the clinic visits, he was there. He would ask questions. When I would try and influence, the doctor to probably give him some unsolicited advice, yes, there's a way you can lead. You can ask leading questions so that it is communicated to your better half or your other half. I would do that. He would actually be very receptive. He would listen and he'd be like, oh, okay, sawa, I'll try and do that. And I liked that, like especially like the back rubs. Yeah, I got them. I appreciated those back rubs. I still do up to now. So I wish I could fake pregnancies so that I just have them for a while. But yes, he was very supportive. And you are right, in hindsight, there are many things I appreciate about him that I know other women are not privileged to have. And it's painful because you don't even understand what's happening to you. You think you do, even if you're reading all those books about pregnancy or what to expect. Whatever is on theory sometimes doesn't, translate to what you're actually feeling. So you find some things are in between. You're not sure if you're feeling nausea or it's just that you've eaten something bad. So you're like, was this because of the pregnancy or it's me and what I've experienced maybe during my menstrual cycle or, just previous reproductive cycles that you've had. So it's hard. You don't understand why you're getting upset easily. And it may seem natural to you, but everybody looking from the outside in is saying, hey, Lynnette has changed. And you're stating facts. You're like, why is that glass on the floor? Or why is this hanging that way? And you're really fervent about that whole issue, but it's actually an issue. But for you, it's important. From even how you look, I am privileged that my nose did not do that whole expansion thing. Oh God, thank you. Please let it remain as such. But I imagine when women are looking at themselves and they're like, okay, I've changed, I'm happy, I'm pregnant, but when I look at so-and-so, I'm not like them. Or for me, I didn't do a lot of physical exercise, and I would watch videos online, and I'm seeing these women lifting weights, dumbbells. They're doing squats, and they're running, they are dancing like this is just an extension of their body. I'm like, I can't even imagine doing something like that. So you have conflicting thoughts, you have conflicting expectations, you are trying to be everything that you're supposed to be in that first time as a mom. It's hard. And if you don't have a good support system, they become harder for you. You are afraid sometimes because you're watching everything. You don't know if this will backfire. I remember like I was introduced to some prenatal drugs. There's one I really liked, but then there's one that came into the market, and of course many gynecologists were saying you should try this. And the moment I tasted it, it didn't work for me. And I was like, am I denying my child something that is necessary for them by compromising on what I feel comfortable with? And I was like, okay. Then I started being paranoid because I was thinking maybe they want to kill my baby. Aliens want to kill my baby, so they're giving me pills. I went through a lot of issues in my head because I just want to be a good mom. And I want my husband to also enjoy me as a good wife. As I said, my first pregnancy was perfect. The journey was nice. Apart from those hiccups that are there, it was nice. So I wake up at 6 in the morning. I realize, I think we are ready. And it's actually the exact EDD. So I was excited. I ran. I showed my sister. The show is here. It's something called the show, Yuka's show. I was like, it's here. Let's go to hospital. I'd already packed my bags. My goodness, I was full of energy. We go to the hospital. He says, you've dilated, I think it was 2 centimeters. So you go back home, do what you need to do. Then you can check in. I call it checking in because I felt like I was going into a hotel. Like the picture I had in my mind was surreal. It was ethereal. It was so surreal and beautiful. So I was like, okay, I'll go and check in at around 2 p.m., 1 to 2 p.m. at the hospital. So I took my sister for some errands. I'm having a bit of contractions here and there, but I'm braving it. I'm like, you know what? You're going to do this. So the walking is actually fantastic. It's perfect for you. So 2 o'clock, we get into the hospital. Everything seems to be fine. So I had even put a bit of makeup, done my eyebrows, done my eyeliner, a bit of lip gloss. I was like, I'm going to slay. While I push, I'm like, okay, there's a baby. Hi, guys. So I was really excited about that experience to a point where now when I think about it, there was something a bit weird there. But we get in, we're having nice conversations. The day is closing and it's getting darker. My contractions they're there, but they're not that bad. So I'm like, Hebraic birth. It's going to be fine. 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock, 9, we're not moving. We're now stuck at 4 centimeters, and now the pain is intensifying. So, of course, they start giving me what are they called? The word has disappeared. I think I've just shivered when I thought about them. To help with they started inducing me. Thank you. Yes. First, I have it goes in through. It's like a suppository. Then the next thing, IV. Then they force my water to break. They they pierce the membrane. Nothing is moving. The most I went was 5 centimeters. And now we're drawing close to midnight. Something is not okay. So I decide I'm going to break into tongues. So as I'm crying and I'm in pain, I couldn't get words to express what I was feeling. Tongues was my go-to. So all through, I was just praying in tongues, and my sister and my husband are praying with me because my sister came to be with me during that session or that season, if I could say that. So I'm walking, I'm doing the squats, I'm trying everything, and I'm praying. We're trying to shift, like what midwives do, get things moving, but when they come, nothing, and I'm in pain, but nothing is moving. So at some point, I got a bit of a breather. And I lay on the bed and I'm waiting for the next set of contractions to come. So I'm trying to gather some strength. Then I see the doctor walk in and he has this grim face. And I knew, okay, something's wrong. So he just says, I think we'll have to take you for emergency CS. I felt like everything is just falling apart. Like, this was not the plan. This is definitely not the plan. Then at that moment, I remembered, even during the prophecy that was spoken about my marriage and me having children, there was a paragraph that was it wasn't very pleasant to hear, but it had a lot of hope. The lady had said that the enemy has intended to frustrate your birth and your children and to actually cut short their lives. But God has reversed it all. You will have your children. So that when the guy came, the doctor came, and he said those words, of course, I was not happy to hear it. I was feeling afraid. I'm like, I am not ready for that. Both financially and physically, I'm not ready. We're not ready. But that line came, and I started getting peace. And I was like, I can see it makes sense. God, you have a good plan, and I will give birth to my baby boy. Everything will be fine. And everything went, I think, as it should have up to that point. And I got my child in my arms the next few hours and started the whole breastfeeding thing, trying to see if he can latch. It wasn't easy, but we tried. And one thing I never got to understand was, or know, is that after you've gone through CS, the milk production doesn't usually start immediately. I thought it was supposed to, yeah. But I could feel my breasts were full, but it was not coming as it should have. But either way, we continued. We pressed on until he latched on and he started suckling. So after about 2.5 years, I got pregnant again, and I was excited because I knew this was going to be a girl. I knew it. So everything looks fine. We go for the next month visit, and he spots like there are 2 sacks. So he asks, did we see this in the beginning? I'm like, no, I don't remember seeing that. So he's like, okay, it looks like you're going to have twins. My goodness. I would have done a full-blown African dance at that point, because secretly I was hoping that if we can just do 2 shots, 2 at once, we can relax for a while. So I was like, God, thank you. I'm so excited about it. So I tell my family members. Of course, Peter, as dramatic as you would expect him to be, even when I first told him I'm pregnant after doing the home test, he tells me, oh my God, oh no. I'm like, okay, that's not the response that I was hoping. So I was wondering, did he think that he had gotten a child out of wedlock? Like, this is a natural occurrence for a normal couple. So when I tell him twins, you can expect his mind was just everywhere, but the normal trajectory that I would have him to be in. But nonetheless, so we're excited. And as time goes by, it's a COVID era. So everybody's masking up. I'm still going to work. I had a very high intensive job. It was strenuous. I'll be in the office between 7:30 and 8, and I would probably leave around almost the same time on most days, not every day. So it's a lot of work. I just gotten a new position, and of course I'm trying to prove myself. And then the company that I was working with at that time, they were going through a very difficult financial period. So it was at the verge of them even closing. So it was literally ER. When you go to work, everything is an emergency, and everything is, I don't know, it's just crazy. And I was at the center of that. So anywho, I put on my woman pants, and I said, I'm going to do this. We're going to work it through. So one day I come home, and I'm not quite okay. I feel malaria-ish. My head is paining. Of course, I'm still having food issues, but I'm like, okay, let me not highlight that. It's okay. But this other feeling that's in my bones, it's not good. So I talked to my sister, and she says, in the first trimester, you can expect such moments, and you're weak, etc. But the next day, I'm like, no, I'm also feeling my chest is not good. My nose is not good. COVID? No, it can't be COVID. It cannot be COVID. So third day, I just woke up in the morning and told my husband, I think I have COVID. And why is that? My taste had gone, and I couldn't smell anything. And now I was starting to cough. So I gather guts. I'm like, okay, I'm pregnant, I have COVID, not a good show. And you've been hearing like how many deaths have been happening, how many women are caught up in that quagmire. It's just an ugly, there's no hope, in short. So the only hope I had was the word of God and my God. So I dashed to Amref, get tested, positive as positive could be. So I sent an email to my employer at the time, and then I inform everybody because it's now quarantine time. So I'm locked in. My primary caregiver as well not even decides, I graciously distributed the same virus to him. That is my husband. So both of us are sick. And there's something about COVID, I don't know if everybody would probably resonate with the same thing, but it had this grim or ominous kind of feeling. Forget about how you feel in your body, but just the room, everywhere you are, you just feel like death is slowly enclosing and engulfing on you. And I could feel that in our house. It was not normal, it was not natural. And so, and then if you, what apart from that dark cloud or dark feeling that you just have, it would give you a lot of fear. Because of course, what was being propagated in the media, you'd just be afraid. And so the two things combined was disastrous. You start to lose hope, both in your emotions and your spiritual side, and even now your body. It just falls in place that you have no desire to live. And even if you try, it's too hard because you can't breathe. You're coughing, everything. It's just horrible. It's just a horrible, horrible feeling. Now, at the moment, I say I was at a precipice of just giving up, I could feel some supernatural strength telling me that you have to fight. You really have to fight, Lynnette. So I decided full blast, either teachings or worship or the Bible, audio Bible. Nothing else, no movies, nothing to cheer my mood up. No, I don't want comedies. This is serious. So I started doing that, and I would pray with the little breath I would have. I would obviously get breathless. Already when you're pregnant, your breathing is already compromised. So now combined with the COVID situation, it's hard. So you start talking, you get tired. You want to pray, dear God, and you just lose your breath. So you start praying internally. And sometimes you don't have the words because your mind is clouded, and you have this excruciating headache at the back of your head. You can't lift up your head, and if you lie down, it feels worse. And then you want to breathe, because if you lie down flat, you can't get enough air into your airways. So you sit halfway. It was just horrible. It was horrible. But the word, worship, and teachings, at least my spirit man could hear that, and he would probably encourage this feeble body of mine. And as we were going through that, my husband now got worse, because he was not eating at all. I had chosen that whether I have an appetite or not, I had to eat because of my baby. I had to eat. So I would just stuff anything. If it comes out, it's okay, but at least there's some that's in my stomach. So for him, he wasn't eating. And now I had to switch as well to become his caregiver, because now he was not doing well and we couldn't have people come visit us. So it was just him, myself, and our son, and our house manager. God bless her, wherever she is, she knows this story. She was amazing. She tried her best, but we were also trying to prevent her from getting infected as well. So she would only get to the door and then go back. And then she'd have to wear gloves and disinfect everything. Who's doing the rest of the heavy lifting? It's me, because now Peter was not doing well at all. So at some point now, our neighbor came and intervened, and we had to go to hospital so he could be attended to, because he was not breathing well. But at the same time, I was like, I have to conjure all the strength that God you've given me to go through this process. Anywho, the 2 weeks ended. I went back. He was still having post-COVID syndromes and post-COVID symptoms, yeah, that were, he had back aches and all that, so he wasn't effective. So I had to go with some people, with some friends of mine. So I went, that day when I had my clinical visit, I went with a friend of mine, and I was obviously worried because I was wondering, how are my babies doing? Like, I couldn't take any antibiotics, everything had to be natural. So I was just wondering, is everything okay? And true to my fear, I remember there's a song that came to my heart that I will cast all my cares to you. And even when I don't know what to do, I will cast all my cares on you. And it kept on playing in my mind. And I'm like, why am I really singing this song? But I thought, I'm encouraging myself. Either way, it's a good song. So I get to the doctors and they do this scan. And he tells me, I can't hear heartbeat. And the sac seems to be shrinking. But let's give it a month. Maybe the results will be different. No, he gave it 2 weeks. So I went back after 2 weeks and my other baby was gone. And they called it the disappearing twin. Yeah, so they said there's no real explanation for that occurrence. And sometimes it even happens before you even go for your first scan. Many parents don't know that they were carrying twins and now one has disappeared. So two things happen. Either one of the two would happen. Either the twin is absorbed into the body or the other twin absorbs whatever masses and whatever it is that was there for that child. And medically they say probably there was something that happened during the chromosomal, development. So I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to delve into that space. But that's just as much as I know. So the other twin left. It was about 20 weeks around, yeah. We're getting into our second trimester. Anywho, so of course I was devastated. I cried a lot and I prayed with my friend. We just, decided to move forward. It's like, you know what, God, thank you for the one that has remained. So let's do everything that we can on our side to ensure this baby grows up healthy and well. And the journey after that, of course, it wasn't as easy as before because now I was taking Ventolin for asthma because sometimes I go to the office and I can't breathe well. So I was consistently on that. And I was working and I was keeping my head up high, making confessions, praying, saying that I'd prayed for my previous babies before even they were born. So I know we're going to be fine. So as time went by, we are ending, I decided to resign from where I was because it wasn't working. That relationship wasn't working well. So I decided to let go of the opportunity and go back to my consulting practice. So the last day was actually supposed to be on a Monday, but we had an office party on Friday and I decided to leave the office a bit early so I could rest because I was really, really tired and my stomach looked like I was still carrying twins because the space was for twins and there's a lot of amniotic fluid, so it was quite extended and I was really tired. So I went home, I started working on my laptop. So around 3 o'clock, I started feeling some type of way that should indicate that probably you're going into preterm labor again. Not again, you're going to preterm labor. So I reached out to my doctor, explained, he told me you need to go. I reached out to my husband and told him that this is what I'm feeling and I'm going to see the doctor. So he was with the car, so I had to take a cab. So when the taxi came, the pain had started intensifying. So I told my girl that she should give my husband my things. I'm just going to rush to the clinic to find out if this is Braxton Hicks, intense Braxton Hicks, or I'm actually going into labor. But while I was on my way, I called the doctor and he told me, no, I need you to go and check in at the hospital right now. So I said, oh, okay, I'll not be afraid. And truly, the contractions were no joke. So I remember the driver going through the pavements and he has whatever's on, the hazards on. We get there, they check, they realize that I am, again, 2 centimeters dilated. And they could tell that the contractions were intensifying. So I really had to go into, emergency CS. And again, that broke my heart because we had agreed with God and the doctor that we would give it another shot. Because when you read, you're told even if you've had the first CS, probably your second CS might be avoidable if all things are constant. So anywho, they did the steroid shot and I was being prepped for the CS. While we're waiting for the doctor, they realized there's fluctuation. There's fluctuation with the with the baby's heartbeat. Sometimes they couldn't hear it, they couldn't feel it, and everything had to be fast-tracked. So we go, I go for my CS procedure. This time they were a bit more kinder to me. I didn't see anything happening. But I kept on slipping in and out of consciousness. And I remember the anesthetist was slapping me and telling me, you don't want to see your baby, like you need to wake up. I'm like, but I've not slept. I thought I was present, but he was telling me that I was in and out, and they can't have that happening because, of course, it could cause other complications, not only with me, but not only the baby, but also myself. But eventually it was a success. So when she came out, I didn't hear her crying. And my pediatrician, again, credits to her. She's such a blessing. She did what she could, and the baby started crying as well, but she didn't look okay. So my gynecologist is trying to talk me into, like, sort of forget what's happening, like divert my attention to just us. But I feel in my heart something is not okay. So I start praying Psalms 23 over my child. And it's the same thing I did with my firstborn Zeke. So I start praying that, and I say, can I please see my baby? So what she does is she just brings her, like, literally, it was a whisk over my face. Like, I just saw her color and her eyes. And I'm like, okay, why is she doing that? But anyway, Psalms 23, I recite it over and over again. So she lives with my daughter. She was I think I should take some time to just describe her. She was beautiful. Of course, every mother will say that, and I understand. But you know, sometimes when you give birth, you look at your child, you're like, hey, what's happening here? But ni wangu, but what's happening here? But her, she had dark hair, and she was light-skinned. She didn't look like a child that came from two African parents. So you could think those genetic things were happening. I don't know whether it's by osmosis or by God's design, but that baby was like Mzungu type. And she was chubby, even though she looked premature, or even though she was premature and her weight was actually low. But she was chubby, she looked nice. So I didn't understand why I didn't have her. But anywho, what I'm told is that she left and she met my husband and my sister at the corridor. And she begins to explain to them that there are a couple of things that are not correct with baby Nessa. And from what they tell me, of course, it was heavy on them, and they started crying. And she told them that, like, she described a couple of things. She had a cleft palate. Her head was not well formed. It looked like it was, what you call it? It has a rounded physique. It's not very normal. And they noticed, I think I'll explain even some of the issues further down, because they were explained to me now when I finally spoke to her. But she gave them a briefing of what was going on. My husband took some time to record that, and she was just showing what was not right. So they left. So I go to the recovery room, then go to my room, and I'm waiting for my baby. And she's not coming. Instead, I see the doctor coming in. She greets me. How are you feeling? I say, I'm fine, I'm a bit tired, but I'm okay. So I'm waiting for her to brief me, but I didn't expect any bad news per se. Like, she's a preterm, probably NICU, that's okay. So she says, now Lynnette, I don't have very good news. So baby Nessa, and she starts to list. Her ears are lower than normal. Her eyes are apart. She has a cleft palate. She has an imperforated anus, which means that her anus was not developed. So it's where the anus should be, the hole should be, it's blocked. She has clubbed hands. She has extra fingers. Her breathing is not good. And also it seems there's something wrong with her heart, but they have called pediatric cardiologist to come and see the intense or the magnitude of her heart issues. And what she suspected, she tells me that what I suspect is that she has one of the trisomies, and these, the one that it's leaning to is trisomy 13, which is called Pateu's syndrome. So I start wondering, what are all these terminologies? You know, you're recovering, you're not holding your child, and somebody's giving you a list of things that are not right with your child. The only thing that was right is that she was alive, but every other thing was wrong. So I remember I was tearing, but I could see myself smiling, and I was encouraging her to just tell me what's wrong. Like, keep talking, don't be afraid. God, and I remember telling her, God is in control, it's gonna be just fine. So she's looking at me as if maybe it's the drugs that are speaking, but I think my spirit man was reassuring everyone in the room, including myself, that it's gonna be just fine. So she says that the doctor will be coming in to now give us the other diagnosis of what's happening with her heart. Okay, I say, fine, thank you for that, and can I go see the baby? But of course, I've had CS, I'm still drugged up. I can't. And that was painful. I think that was the most painful thing I felt. I couldn't go be with my baby at that time. After they have said all these negative things about her, I can't comfort and tell her, by the way, don't mind them. You are in God's perfect plan. You're going to be just fine. Anywho, I thank God for my family because everybody showed up. My sister, of course, had been there. My brother flew in at 6 a.m. in the morning. And he has his own family. His wife, in fact, was pregnant. And he left and to come and be with me, as now my sister and my husband were thinking of what can be done and how to deal with the news. So he slept actually that night. And yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to him at that point, because I know it was a big sacrifice for him at the point. But anyway, so around 10, 11, the cardiologist comes and he explains that my daughter, or our daughter, has PDA. I think it's called patent ductus atriosis, something like that, atriosis or something like that. It basically means that one of the arteries that should actually close when the baby is born to assist with blood flow was not closing. It was open. So the blood was flowing to and fro from her lungs to the heart and everything. So it was kind of causing an pneumonic situation where the lungs would easily get flooded. Usually when the child is in the womb, they breathe through the umbilical cord and the blood is mixed with the mother's blood. So there's no issue. But as soon as the child is born, that particular artery needs to close. So now the child can, in fact, at the first cry, God is magical. At the first cry, that's supposed to happen. And the baby can start breathing on their own, and the respiratory and of course the heart system starts to work as it should. But for her, that wasn't happening. So the blood was going all over the place. And one of the things that he told my husband, which it wasn't in my hearing, but he told him, is that your child is not normal, so you need to be a man. Yeah, that was completely unnecessary. I think there should have been some empathy exercise, but probably, I don't know what was happening. I will not blame the doctor, I'll just say Satan was behind the scenes and he was doing something to really discourage us. Anyway, after he gave us that diagnosis and of course the prognosis, which was death, meaning that the child would probably not last more than 24 hours. Yes. They left, we said thank you. My sister starts making a few calls. She's well networked, God bless her for that. And one of her close friends, who has become a close family friend, suggested that we should take the baby to Kijabe, because they deal with congenital issues, and they have a specialized medical team that will be able to deal with whatever it is that Nessa seems to have. So we start organizing for the baby to be transferred to Kijabe Hospital. So of course the best candidates at that point would have to travel with Nessa were my husband and my sister. So we consult with our pediatrician, and she writes a letter to confirm that it's okay, that the child can actually be transferred. And she, in hindsight, she gave us very solid advice. She said, you've made a great decision, because if you left the baby here, truly, the baby would not have survived. So my husband and my sister and Nessa and Anas start preparing. And I say, please, can I go and see my daughter? So me, I'm my wobbly self. I go to the NICU and I find her there, and she's all wired up, but she's just so sweet. I'm like, how can they say you're so sick? You don't look like what they're saying. Of course, yes, a few things didn't look like they were in place, but she's a preterm baby. Preterm babies don't look very pretty. They look a bit strange, in all honesty. And I'm like, why are they branding you all these things? So I ask the nurse, please, can I just hold her? And the nurses there were not very nice, except for one of them who finally said, okay, sawa. Toa, because I was wearing the gown, remove this, and then this is how you're going to do it. So she gives me the baby, but she's not mindful of the wiring, all the things that are in her nose, the cannula, all that. I'm like, am I not going to like suffocate her or anyway, or maybe obstruct the oxygen that's going to her? She didn't even respond. I felt like Satan was really out to frustrate us to a point of just despair and not even speak anything positive about anything at all. Anyway, I took my baby and I put her on my chest and I started speaking to her, and I told her, you're going to be okay. There's nothing to worry about. And I sang. I was still so drowsy because it's just that morning, and I'm in pain and I don't have strength. And the room was very warm, so I was feeling sweaty and just uncomfortable. So I held her skin to skin, and I assured her that I love her and that she has to go. And but I'll be following. I remember having that conversation. I'll be following her later, but I'm going to see her and everything will be okay. I just kept telling her, you're going to be fine. God is with you and He's for you. Then it was time. The ambulance had arrived, the nurse with the portable oxygen tank. So they whisked Nessa away and they left. So I remember watching them from the window, and I didn't feel sadness, but I just felt, what's really going on here? I couldn't reconcile my emotions. Yeah, I couldn't reconcile my emotions. So I went back and I stayed with my brother, and he and some friends came to visit. And I'm just wondering, should I be worried, Lord? Is this the point where I should panic and lose my mind so that some attention in the spiritual realm can be, given to me and my family? Or I should just trust you, like you always say, and be calm. Day 2 is when I went to see her, and that's when they leave. And I'm in my room and I'm trying to really think through what is happening to me, what's happening to us. Should I be worried, Lord? Should I be calm? What should I do? I don't know what to do, and I need to get better because I need to be there for her. And I'm here, lying in this bed, laughing, trying to entertain guests, tell them that everything is fine. I don't understand what was going in my heart and my mind. I think there's a lot of things that were happening. So the doctor comes, my gynae comes, he tells me the wound is healing okay. So I ask him, is it okay for me to go to Kijab and be with my daughter? He's like, well, it depends. You have to go through the usual protocols to ensure that your internal system is fine. Then I can discharge you. So I tell him, I'm with my brother, and I'm like, please, I can't be here. And my daughter is over there. It's a hospital. So even if I'm transferred, all you need to do is write whatever notes that you have to. They can also take care of me when I'm there. Okay, so he says, fine. We'll do that. When he leaves, I get a call it was late afternoon, and it's my husband and my sister. They've arrived. And there's a medical team that now receives them. And, my sister and my husband are actually so excited, and they're sharing how they have been received so well. But see, for me, it's third party. So I'm just like, okay, that's good. I'm happy. But now I didn't expect this. The medical team, I think the lead doctor, she was the lead doctor. She picks up the phone and she now starts reassuring me and says, we've received baby Nessa. She's going to be fine. And she explains to me every single specialist who is there, from the neurologist to the pediatric cardiologist to the occupational therapist to, who's this? The guys who deal with the digestive system. Yeah. Then there was a surgeon for the imperforated anus. There was a person who was dealing with the palate. Like, those people, there were many. And they were saying each one of them is going to give the attention that is deserved to Nessa. So I already start feeling this flood of emotions. I'm like, God, who am I that you've favored me this way? From one hospital that didn't have the attention that my daughter required, to this one where there's an overwhelming amount of support. And now the one that just topped it all is that after they've described everything that they want to do for her, they say, can we pray with you? My God. In fact, my eyes are welling, because that feeling, even now, it's not like I felt despair. I felt like, oh my goodness, all of heaven has been sent down in the form of man to come and attend to my baby. So they prayed, and I remember crying uncontrollably. But maybe they thought I was sad. I don't know. But for me, I was just like, whoa, hey, Satan, in your face. My daughter's going to be fine. So they prayed, and I reassured these guys that I'm going to be joining them tomorrow. Day 2 ends. So the doctor comes in the morning and prepares my discharge sheet. And my husband had organized that a very good friend of ours would come and take me to Kijabe, because now my brother had to go back home. So we part ways. He helps me get discharged, etc. And I'm now taken into the vehicle, and we start our journey to Kijabe. And this time it's about an 30 minutes drive to Kijabe. So the road is not that smooth. So every time we go through a big bump, I'm like this. I'm just wincing a little bit, because you can feel your back is not okay. Even though we've tried to put pillows and stuff, it's not enough. You're just from surgery. You should have gone for a 20-minute drive at most, and now relax and be treated like a queen. But here I am. I look like I'm going to the Masai Mara, and I don't know what's going on. The road was really rough. So I get there, and I see my girl. Okay, I'm met by my husband and my sister. I fast forwarded because my focus was to go and see my baby. So I see her there, and I didn't have words, because I'm just like, what is this? This, again, was not in the plan. And God, you said that even though the enemy has tried to, he will not succeed. But this trial was a bit intense. He had gone all out. From the disappearing twin, from COVID to the disappearing twin, and now my daughter with a congenital trisomy 13, they call it, disease. Anyway, so I check into my room. I have an amazing roommate. She also had a daughter who's not well, but the daughter was much older than mine. And so we start having a bond. I won't call it a trauma bond, because it was not about the trauma. It was about God's grace and hope and his healing power. So while she was there, I want to say this part, because it also helped in my faith growth. We kept on encouraging her that her child will not die, that the child will live, because they had said the child has meningitis. And for an infant, that's just like a death, whatever. So anyway, she got discharged for 3 days. That was a fantastic news. And it gave me so much hope, because I knew if we have been able to speak faith into another, how much more ours? Because we're in it, so we're going to be fine. Anyway, it was hard. Oh. Can we take a break? It's okay? Yeah. You can do this. Good. So I see her lying there, and I ask God, what is this? This was not part of the plan. I don't understand. I don't understand the onslaught. Even though you had warned or spoken about it, this was too intense. And the other things that are going through my mind is that I have always seen myself a champion of faith, especially when it comes to healing. I've never had a problem with praying for people, or, you know, it's God's thing. It's not mine. It's God's thing. So if I feel the need to, I pray, and everything works out. It's fine. Here I'm feeling crippled because I've been praying before they were even conceived. I've been praying. Why is this happening? And why is it happening now? Secondly, I'm a pastor. No. If this child doesn't get healed, how can I talk about healing? That's very incongruent. It can't work. Anyway, I decided those questions, while I was there, I said, those questions, we will address them in the room when you're alone with me. But for now, I am with Nessa. So being with her, like my purpose while I was in Kijabe was to ensure that I was with her every single step of her journey. And maybe there was a very high standard I set for myself because it's not possible. I have to sleep, I have to shower, I have to do all those things. She has to go through some medical procedures that I may not be allowed to, and all that. And I have also to take care, not really take care, but be there with my husband and my sister. So I see everything that the doctor has started talking about. And this hospital embarks on a journey to sort of, I could say, corrective measures, you know, like first to monitor how her entire well-being is, and then come up with a plan. So we're going to concentrate on this first, and this, and this, and that. And one of the biggest priority at that time was to ensure that she's breathing just fine and she's able to feed. Okay. So we have sessions with the occupational therapist, the pediatric occupational therapist, and they will tell me, okay, so this is what's happening with her face. It looks a bit droopy, but now we need to massage it so that it can gain some structure. We have to do massages on her hands because they were clubbed. Clubbed just generally means that they are looking inwards, and the hands are inwards and slightly outwards. So we need to see if we can bring her wrists to be okay, and then strengthen the muscles here, and that means we have to massage. Then her legs as well, we have to work on that so that they get some strength, because a lot of the time she's sedentary and she's lying down. So to get the blood flowing and so that her muscles don't atrophy, we need to work on that. Then the biggest part was her feeding, and they said, okay, fine. A cleft palate is also rare because most people have cleft lips, but hers was the palate, upper palate. So it's a big hole. Like, so where the nasal area plus the upper palate, there's room. There's, what do you call it? What do I say? I don't have the medical word, but there's a hole. Okay. So it meant her feeding would be hampered because as you remember, when babies are suckling, for those who have watched them, the breathing and the suckling is coordinated. There's a way that it works. But this time, you would find that the baby would probably choke, or, you know, it would come out from the nose because there's no barrier. There's no barrier. The reflexes are not working as they should because of the hole. So we have to find a way to help her adapt to that space. We had to get a specialized bottle and, of course, the teat. That was extremely tiny, and it had restrictions to ensure that if she's not able to breathe in properly, then the milk could not flow. So it would restrict the flowing until she starts breathing properly, and then now she can suckle. But in the meantime, before we get there, she was feeding through the tube, and the tube was going through her nose. It was going through her nose. So I was given all that, and so there were days like we will keep monitoring certain milestones as we go ahead and tell you when she's ready to now move, and then now probably you can breastfeed her, because once she's adapted, she's able to latch on well, you can have the privilege of breastfeeding her. So I was really excited about that plan. It looked like a good plan, and in my opinion, Nessa was also looking forward to that plan, because you could see she was progressing well. Her face was a beautiful pink. You know, the when you hear or you watch or you read a book and they're describing this girl who's blushing. She had a beautiful pink outlook, which meant at least blood was flowing around her and she was alive. She wasn't gray or white or anything like that, or even blue. She was just fine. Then they started looking at, of course, the other plan was to look at her brain to ensure if there are any lesions, because that happens a lot with preterm babies and worse with children who are diagnosed with trisomies. So there are three main trisomies that you'll probably hear of. There's trisomy 13, 18, and 21. 13 is Patau's, 18 is Edwards, and 21 is Down syndrome. So Down syndrome is the most common one. And all of them are chromosomal. So you're supposed to have 46, but something happens and you end up having 47. And now they come with a lot of complications, yeah, with depending on the child and how the child was, of course, not child conceived, but just how everything works with that particular child. So some issues are more severe than others. Now, out of the three trisomies that are known, the two most severe ones are 13 and 18, which is Patau's and Edwards. And it's argued that between the two, sometimes they say Patau's is worse than Edwards and vice versa. But when you look at both of them, they're just horrible. And they say that these children never live beyond a year. And even if they do, they grow up with a lot of physical challenges, intellectual, limitations as well. So it's just difficult to raise these children. So anyway, that was their prognosis. We were told that the quality of life of this child, if they don't heal, would never be good. They'd have delayed milestones as well. So that's the medical field. But who are we? We are warriors in the Lord. So we know that God can turn any situation around. And all our hopes, trust me, were on the Lord. We're like, even if he's going to use the medical team, it is him. It is him. Because we know they are speaking, there are times they would speak out of faith, because most of the doctors there are actually born again. Kijabe, the missionaries, if I would just speak for the missionaries, they're born again. So they were infusing science and faith. So they would give you the scientific interpretation of a matter, but then now they would come and, weigh in their faith, and they would say, but God. Let's see what God will do with this. Let's trust God for that. And that was a great reassurance, because you can imagine if you're still standing there and all odds are against you, not only medically, but also the theoretical part of what people are saying about your situation. So it was very consoling, and it gave you an environment of, a spiritual incubating environment that allows you to grow your faith and your trust in the Lord from a spiritual perspective. Anywho, so there was a plan to do her CT scan. Then they were to again do the heart. Once we have figured out the brain, if it's okay, we now move to the next part. How is the heart looking like and what needs to be done? Obviously, the other physical things could be dealt with later, as long as we could stabilize or remove the PDA situation, and also have her eat well. That was the aim. Whoa, just had a flashback of something. So because she didn't have an outlet for the excretion, we had to find a way to allow the excretory matter to exit her body. So the doctors gave us a tube that would go through her vagina and now allow for the excretion to come through the tube. That part was not fun, because after they show you, you have to do it yourself. You have to find a way to do it, so that the diaper change, the meconium and everything else had to clear off her system, because she can't stay like that. And I remember sometimes my hand would literally be shaking. I'm like, I can't do this. Let's just wait. Okay. And luckily for me, 3 or 4 times, one of the nurses would be kind enough to tell me, Lynnette, you look tired. Sit down or go to your room, take a shower. We're going to do this for you. We'll change the baby for you. And that was such a blessing to have that support as well. But nonetheless, the moments that I had to do it, they were no good. It was not fun to see that happening to your child and you being given the responsibility to handle that. Okay, whoa. Justus. All right, so we finished, she went for the scan and they said the lesions were negligible on the left side, so her brain was looking superb. Now, does that determine if she will grow normally, at least with all her faculties in the brain? They say they don't know, but God. And that's what they say, but God, but God. And every time they would say that, my heart would just leap, be like, you know what, I'm not alone. Like, Nessa, you're not by yourself. The Lord is fighting for you. So I'd be so excited when I would hear that. And I would probe them, like really push them to the far edges and to see if they would have any worse outcome. And they would give me the worst. But the next thing they would say, but you never know what God would do. And when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, you guys and we guys, we never know. All we know is that God has a good plan. And that plan is that Nessa will be fine. So I would sit in for all the doctor's rounds every morning. Sometimes my husband, my sister, and my mom, yes, my mom. My mom traveled, but my mom and my dad are both retired. They're above 75. So they stay back at home. But my mom, and she has underlying conditions. I'm not going to mention them here, but she has underlying conditions that would warrant her to stay put until like a real emergency would happen and she would appear. But she sacrificed her time, her health, and came all the way to Kijabe to stay with my husband and my sister. And she would diligently wake up with them and come and be with us at the hospital so that we would just go through the procedures and everything, and she would be there. So I thank God for her, for everything that she did. It's remarkable. Anyway, that's for another session. So in the mornings before my husband, my mom, and my sister would come, we would have the doctor's rounds. And I remember I used to have either a pen and a paper or my phone. I would listen to every single thing they would say, what has improved, what has not improved, what they're going to do. I would interject and say, excuse me, so what's that? What is it supposed to do? Oh, okay, okay, fine, we're focusing on that. Well, I write it down. And I realized that actually helped me because I felt like I was contributing a lot, not only to myself, like getting knowledge, but also just to reassure my daughter that I have a hawk's eye on you. They're not going to have any medical mishaps here. And I would, after they speak about what they're saying, I would go and Google and say, okay, so they were telling me the truth about this and this and that. And sometimes when they would have interns, the scrubs, they would be part of the rounds. And I felt like this is like a medical show because it's not, of course, TV is exaggerated, but it was real. It was the closest to the real thing that I could ever have imagined. And they would sometimes forget the things they said in the morning or in the evening the previous day. I'd be like, no, it was 26, not 36, 26. Yes, I wrote it down here. It's 26. And one of the doctors told me, I actually commend you for being so invested in this. We hardly get parents doing that. They would be so overwhelmed and tired, understandably so. But for you, it's like you should now from here just go and study medicine. I think your path is already cut out for you. I was like, you never know. Maybe I might. And being there during those sessions sometimes would be counterproductive, to be honest, as well. Because when they would have a bad, report, it was in my hearing, and they couldn't shelter me from that because they have to discuss it. And I remember there's a time they realized that she had polyps in her gallbladder. And they were discussing, okay, should we go for surgery now? And they're like, no. Every other thing, we want to have a time where we'd have everything dealt with, from the palate to the perforated anus to all the other things that need to be cut out or to be reconstructed. They would do it all at once. But her little body was too small to go through that, and they couldn't put her through anesthesia because the blood flow and the breathing was still all over the place. So they're like, okay, so how big are they? And this really hurt me. Some were 0.5 centimeter to 1 centimeter. And this is a small baby. That's no good, you know. I wish they said it was like 1 millimeter. But these were big polyps in that baby's body. They will talk about the creatinine levels, which is basically, it's in layman's language, creatine is something that is a function of the kidney. So it helps to remove all the toxins from the body. And if it's not working well, the body gets, of course, intoxicated, and it can lead to kidney failure. So I used to monitor those charts like no one's business, because the moment I would hear it's elevated or the number doesn't look good, I have to go on my knees and pray. I'm like, God, out of all the things that my daughter would die of, it cannot be that she's being it's toxins in her own body that are killing her. No, we have to work on that. So with everything that they would also mention, I would take note, both the good and the bad. As I said, it was counterproductive. I would still take note. Then we had created a WhatsApp group, and I wrote every single diagnosis, every comment that was contrary to the truth of God's word about my daughter. And we would say, so today we are praying for this. This is what they've said. The positives, I would say, I would cross out, like from the chart, I would strike through. We thank God this is done. We thank God this is done, because there were some really great reports that would come as well. So I needed everybody to know that their prayers were not hitting a ceiling. They were actually working. They were moving things around in her favor. Nonetheless, we still had a lot of work to do. We had to work on our faith, and we had to work on the physical representation or manifestation of those things that we are praying for. And they were taking some time. Now, the biggest positive we had after day 4 was that they allowed me to go with my baby to the room. I was thrilled. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I had forgotten I had a scar. I forgot I was not my perfect health, and I'm recovering. I went, I made her bed, because she was going to sleep with me. I put her stuff there. I put her a plush doll. I was like, hey, if you're going to have this moment, it better be good. It must be memorable. And fortunately for that time, Peter and my sister had also gone home to get a change of clothes and just to get a breather, and also probably bring my little boy to come and see his sister. So I was there. I was alone. And they also taken my mom as well. They had all gone. The 3 of them had gone. So that night, I had her feeding equipment there and everything that monitors her oxygen levels, because sometimes they'll be really elevated, but this time it was stable. So she was breathing so sweetly and softly. But then, the devil comes at night, to be honest. Wachawi, well, that's why they operate at night. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I could notice that her breathing was staggered, that she was struggling. Sometimes the food would not go in as seamlessly as it was before. So I would alert the medical team, the nurses and night nurses, but they were, I don't know what demon was operating, because they looked like very nice people, but the way they were behaving towards the child and me was very nonchalant. Like they were slow, they were sluggish. They're like, fanya tu hivi itakuwa sawa, do this, it'll be okay, don't worry. But I'm like, no, something is not okay. So that night I didn't sleep well. It was our first night, and we didn't sleep very well. So the following morning, I noticed that her complexion and just the face, it looked a bit strange. It was no longer the bright pink. It was a dull red, and it had green around her. And then some places looked a bit purplish. Like her face looked weird. I'm sorry to use this illustration, but like almost zombie-like, that color is weird. It's like it's dying flesh. So I told them, And they said, okay, we're going to adjust this, because now they realized that the oxygen wasn't really flowing properly. So it looked like probably she was being deprived of oxygen. So they adjusted it, and that time I'm worried because she's now starting to roll her eyes funnily. But I thought, okay, kids sometimes do that. Like they open their eyes to try and grasp their surroundings or the lighting. So I dismissed it and said, no, maybe there's nothing. Then she had a twitch in her eyes that was strange. I remember seeing those things in medical movies, and they would say somebody's having a seizure. But because she was not convulsing, I was like, maybe again it's just me overthinking. This baby's fine. So the day went on, and we had ups and downs, but she was generally okay. When my husband and my mom and my sister came in around 6 o'clock, something was definitely not okay. So I started explaining to them that the baby has not been as lively and as plush as she was before. And before we could even finish that conversation, Nessa started coding. Medical terms, she was slipping away. And she was actually becoming, I dare say she had become non-responsive, because she was not breathing and everything was off. So I start screaming. My sister starts doing CPR. My mom is praying. My husband is praying and watching. And my mom is also talking and praying. Like it was chaos. So all of a sudden, I decided there's the emergency pediatric nurse came in, and she's yelling those things like in hospital. This, epi, blah, blah, 2.5, 2. I'm like, is this happening here in front of my eyes, or like what's going on? They're bugging her, they're doing CPR, they're giving her jabs. So I decided if I stay here, I may not be strong enough to deal with this. So I walked away and started praying loudly on the corridors. My sister started praying in tongues. Peter is praying in tongues. My mom is praying, And we're like, she can't go now. That's not happening now. No. And thankfully, she didn't go anywhere. She came back, cried as strong and as if like somebody had woken her up from her sleep. And that was the funniest thing. She just had energy from nowhere. And so that night she couldn't stay with me anymore. So they had to take her back to HDU. But even while she was there, I wasn't worried, because like she came back even stronger, in my opinion. And the following morning, I didn't sleep well. I won't lie. I started reading books. I started listening to sermons again. I remember I was stuck on the two kinds of righteousness by E.W. Kenyon. So that I didn't talk about faith. I needed to understand what is the right of a believer by what Christ has done. So that if that thing is embedded in me, my identity is embedded in me, I do not have to be afraid to proclaim, to decree. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because I really know who I am in Christ. So that feeding of that, it was like consistent. I was feeding my mind and my body with those realities, because I also needed to heal. It's not just Nessa who's there. I'm also not okay. And I got an infection, so UTI infection. So also I'm dealing with that, plus the scars, and just getting my strength back after the pregnancy and the CS. So I had to do something. Something had to give. And that was my carnal side had to die. I had to be in spirit consistently. So that night, I didn't sleep. I stayed like at a 45 angle, if I could say that. And I would just listen and I would pray. I would listen and I would pray. By 6, when they allowed me, in fact, they allowed me to go back at 6 in the morning, because they had stopped me. They're like, you need to go and rest. At 2, I would leave and go there at 2 o'clock. I'm sitting and watching her. I'm like, I'm trying to pick stories with the nurses so they don't kick me out. But they would see through my bluff and they say, Lynnette, you now need to go. You have to go. Mama Nessa, go and sleep. So that specific night, I did not sleep. By 6, I was there watching her. How is she breathing? And she looked much better. And she had slept with her mouth open, and she had a false tooth. She had grown a false tooth. So I was just amused by that. All of a sudden, where did that come from? And the day progressed well. People came to see us. We were encouraging the people who are coming to see us because we didn't want them to despair. We wanted them to have the equal faith or even more, so that in case we were despairing, they would stand in the gap for us. So we had to stand up and pull our socks up, our faith socks up, and speak words of encouragement and just diffuse the situation so that it's not grim. That night, the fourth night passed. We go to the fifth and the sixth. And at this time, we're starting to notice that the other people in the hospital, the kids in the HDU, they were also having very serious congenital issues. Very serious congenital issues. And so we were not the spotlight of the HDU. And now all of us are having a need, a push, an impression to minister to these kids and their parents. And now we took that fully as our job. So half the time, as we're not, as we are taking care of Nessa here and there, getting to understand what's going on, we are noticing these ones are going through this, these ones are going through that, these ones are going through that. So one person takes the mother or the father or whoever it is or the caregiver, we go, we lay hands on them, we pray for them. And I'm telling you, half of the kids who came in while Nessa was there were discharged. And our Nessa was still there. And we're seeing them coming in and leaving. Coming and leaving. They had severe cases. I'm not kidding you. That place is no fun. The devil is not playing. He's not playing. And when I see believers taking their walk with God very lightly, not knowing that we have a work that we were mandated to do, it breaks my heart. We are so occupied with our own personal issues that we don't have enough room to be there for other people and to do what God has commissioned us to do, knowing that He's also taking care of us. Most of the people there didn't even know about God, or they knew Him as a far-fetched figure who's not their father, or who's not mindful of the pain that they're going through. So making them start to believe that God is actually their father and that He cares, that was the biggest task. It was not just praying for them. That was a walk in the park. Making a 5-minute prayer, 2-minute prayer, it's not hard. But convincing that the caregiver needs to believe that God's will for them is good is hard. So we spent a lot of time doing that. My sister would go and help the mothers with the breastfeeding procedures, because it was also a jungle that was quite interesting to walk through. We had enormous experiences there. Anyway, let's now go to day 10. There's not much that's happening in terms of decision making, what next to do. We're just monitoring her progress to see if she can be discharged from hospital, go home and get home care until such a time that she can go for surgery. So day 10, we're told now we have to have the pediatric cardiologist to come and now give us like a bit more in-depth diagnosis of what's really going on. And then the doctor had a specialized machine. She's I think she's the top pediatric cardiologist in Kenya. So she has a special machine that really gives you a proper outlook and insight on what's going on with the heart. So we needed that. And then also now to determine whether she will go for surgery or not, or whether we should be hopeful for her to ever leave the hospital in any case. And at the same time, they had also sent the medical report to some doctor in the US who was also a specialist, and they were waiting for his review. So his review came out very positively. He was saying, yeah, this can actually be worked on, blah, 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 but he would need some more time and monitoring of this issue. On the other hand, we were now waiting for a booking with this pediatric cardiologist. She was busy because she's not only, of course, a practicing doctor, but she's also a lecturer. So, and there are many other cases. Nessa was not the only person in Kenya. So her booking is crazy. But lo and behold, this woman, I don't know how she decided that she would make time, but she was slotted. We were being slotted for Sunday, and that was 50-50, because Sunday is a day you chill, So she was saying she may come, she may make some time on Sunday. But we get the news on Wednesday that she will actually be available for us on Friday. So we rest assured that she's coming. That gave me so much joy. And that same night I had a dream. It was more like a visionary dream that Christ was working on my daughter's heart. And I remember sending a message that the heart is going to be fixed today, because now in the morning I kept on saying that it's the heart that's going to be worked on. And I was so excited because I could see what he was doing, what he was moving with everything, and it looked so vivid because I was standing there. And I was like, okay, this is a great assurance that things are going to be just fine. Come Friday, Nessa codes. And that time, they had not arrived. Of course, she was coding in between. I've just not talked about it, but I'm just looking at the landmarks. So that Friday, I'm called, and they used to come at night. Sometimes in the night, they would come. They would knock the door and say, Mama Nessa, habari yako? When they would just say habari yako, I would have chills, because I know something has happened and they need me to be there to pray and, of course, be a witness. But largely to pray, because they didn't need me to be a witness anyway. They would do their medical stuff without me being there most of the time. But when she coded, it was time for me to go. And the fact they told me that your prayers, you guys, when you pray, you give us more hope to fight, to not give up easily. So when they would come in the middle of the night, or maybe during the day and they're not there, my heart would start racing. I'm like, okay, we have to do this faith thing again. We have to really work it out. So, anywho, come that day, and she codes, and they came and they just say, Mama Nessa, imefika yo wakati. It's that time. Okay, I would come with my gown. I just start pacing. But that day was hard, because she was not responding to anything. They were bugging her. They were trying. So I told my husband and my mom and my sister, you guys need to come quickly. It's too much for me. And now I couldn't pray anymore. I just started singing. And I remembered I had a bit of not a vision, but an imagination of Goliath standing right in front of me. And this time he's mocking me and saying, okay, now try and contend. Just try, because nothing is working. So far you've been monitoring this child. There's slight improvement, but today is a day I'm taking your daughter away. And he even gave me a bargain. I could feel like I was telling me, you could trade your life for Nessa. I can let Nessa be, but you have to go. And I remember when he was saying that, in my mind, I was like, no, this is in response to the things that we have been doing in the hospital. We have been praying. We have been standing with people in the gap. People's faiths have been built up. Some have gotten born again. So it looked like we were raining havoc in the hospital, as opposed to just concentrating on our child who was causing the havoc, And when he told me that, I remember he said, I'll raise a hallelujah. And I started singing. I sang loudly. I was shouting to a point where now all the other people now were looking at me. Others started praying, because now the room was right there. There was the general HDU, but then there's a specialized room that if things got really worse, they would take the patient there. So there I started shouting, and I would pray and sing loudly in tongues, pray in tongues and sing loudly, and then just thank God for Nessa's life, that she's coming back. The same time now, my sister, my husband, and my mom, they walked in, and they just caught on. They didn't ask questions. They just started praying. Then I hear, she's back. And this time, it's like nothing had happened. So the doctor comes and says, your daughter, she's very remarkable. Because after you've gone through such an intense CPR session, you don't have the strength to even talk, to even utter a word. Anyway, so she came out. A few hours later, the doctor came. They did the test. And she gave us the grim diagnosis that, I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do for her. The artery, or is it the aorta? I think it was the artery, has really hardened, and it's quite big. And if we're to do any surgery, I'm not sure your daughter will be able to survive it because of other underlying complications. So this one, from a medical point of view, there is nothing we can do for you. And then a verse came to my mind. It was Hebrews chapter 3, verse 1. I'll paraphrase it. But it was telling, the writer was telling believers, fellow Christians, that at this particular point in your life, you need to focus on Jesus. Focus on Christ, because in him is the center of our well-being. I think that's in the Message version. NIV version, I can't remember, but it meant like he's both our high priest and I think our apostle, the apostle and the high priest. But it was basically telling believers to behold Christ completely, had focus on the Lord. So when the doctor was saying that, in my mind, that was the verse that came. And prior to that, one of the verses that was very strong in my heart, and I'd written it down as one of her, I wouldn't say memoirs, but for her recital, if she would ever to wake up, is that it's 1 John chapter 3, and it says the reason why the Son of Man was manifested is that he would destroy the works of the enemy, which was sin and death, works of the devil, which was sin and its consequences. So in my mind, I knew this was the work of the enemy, and Jesus has already done it. So it will be destroyed, both here and beyond. Because I know even if she was to die, she would be resurrected. So that is a done deal. But now I needed her to live in the land of the living. I didn't want her to die. So those verses, those two, came to mind. And when she was talking and she was saying, hope, Peter and my sister, they were asking questions. And me, I was just stuck on that. I was like, I'm not going to lose faith. And I told myself, if the medical field has reached at this point and they're defeated, this is time for God to show up and show off. So I was so confident. And I was like, it's okay. It's fine. So Friday ended. Come Saturday morning, that is 12th of February, 2022. I've come for my usual 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'm sitting there with her. I'm singing. I had a playlist for her. So I used to put the playlist. And, Nessa would actually, for a preterm baby, she was behaving very funny. She would open her eyes and look around. She would hear noises and she would look like she wants to turn and see things. I'm like, that happens when you're 2 weeks into birth or something, like, you've matured a bit, but you're acting like you're a normal baby. What's really happening with you? And there's a time, I kid you not, I saw a smile. I know babies don't smile that early, but even if it was my own illusions, it was perfect for me because I felt like she had smiled at me and she would squeeze my hand. I have a picture of her actually holding my hand like that. I managed to scramble and take a photo like that. So yeah, that morning, she was looking very sick, but her eyes, she opened her eyes and she looked at me and I'm telling her, Mama, I'm sorry that you had to hear what the doctor said. I don't think they know what they're talking about because they've not met your God. You're going to be fine. And she just, again, she closed her eyelids and I could tell she was tired because I saw her pink skin. It had small marks, piercings. Here they had started getting blisters because of the sticker things, the electro something, they were on her. And I felt for her and I could tell she was tired. There was an injection huku on her ankle. She didn't look like she was in a very comfortable position. But I kept on telling her, you're going to get out of this and you're going to be fine. You don't worry. And we'll be there to watch what God is doing for you. The doctor comes in and he's a new doctor. We hadn't met. The other ones it was their shift had ended. That whole week's shift had ended. So the doctor comes and he starts telling me a lot of things that were not very nice. They were the truth according to the medical standpoint. And they were the truth in terms, I think he was trying to relate to me and give me a softer landing for, in expectation of what was coming. So he starts saying, you've been told before by this other doctor that at the moment right now, we only have one intubation machinery, and there's a child, a preterm baby, he was one of triplets, he has a better survival chance than your daughter. So even if you wanted to give your daughter, if she codes again, we can't bag her anymore, she'll have to be intubated. And we cannot make that provision for your daughter because this other kid, his life chances for survival are far much higher than your daughter's. So in short, he was telling me, between these two, we're not choosing your baby. I said, okay, not your fault. May God give you more machinery. In my mind, I was like, may God help you guys. Yeah. Secondly, he says, and you know what she has been through is quite traumatic, not only emotionally for her, but also her body. So we are saying basically that if she codes, we will not do any CPR for her. We will just let it be. And now you have to decide whether you're going to take her and go home with her. That if should the Lord choose to heal her completely, it's a win. But should he not choose to do so, you would have spent very precious moments with her away from all these medical shenanigans. Hey, I wasn't sad, but I could feel, you know, my cheeks were warm because the tears were just trickling down. They're flowing uncontrollably. And he says, you know, if I were you, I would also be feeling probably the same thing, because I don't know. I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to tell you. But that is the truth I have to share with you, that your daughter is not getting better, and there's nothing more we can do for her. I've given you a summary. I recorded everything, and I was like, my people have to hear it either way. But I recorded everything for them to hear. So I said, thank you for all that you've done, but I think I'm going to stick with the Lord. I'm not giving up. I am not giving up. Nessa is going to be fine. So he looked at me like I'm crazy. And maybe to him, I was crazy, but that's what's known as crazy faith. That's the only thing I could hold on to. So I told my family when they came, and we started making calls that they're going to take her off, move her from HDU and the main support system, and they'll be moving her to my room, and there'll be a point where they'll remove the oxygen so that we can see what the Lord has done. So everybody started making plans to come, family members and friends. And we said we'll wait until around 6 or 7 or so that everybody arrives in good time. That time my mom had gone back to be with my dad, and now they were making the journey to come back at some point with my in-laws and my brother, and etc. So the hour came. Friends and relatives, family, we are gathered there, except for my mom and my dad. The journey for them was a bit slower. But it was around 6:30-ish, 6:15, 6:30, that we finally removed the oxygen. And everybody was praying. When I say everybody who knew about Nessa, they were praying. The phones were on loudspeaker because we could hear them praying. We were praying, we were worshiping, we were doing everything that any child of God knows what to do or how to do. And we were waiting. So what we did is that we decided to allow everybody to carry her and speak a blessing as we were praying. And we were waiting for this miracle that she'll pull through. And we can tell the doctor, sayonara, thank you for everything you've done. We bless God for you. Let's go with our healed baby. So we were waiting and we're waiting. So after we had done the rounds, and Nessa came finally to my husband. He was the last one to hold her, and I was just right there. In the middle of the worship and the prayer and everything we're feeling, I saw her eyes, and she looked at me, and I knew she was normal. She had rested. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to scream, whether to laugh. For a split second, I just had a weird expression on my face. I could feel like I was smiling, but that was not what was in my heart. And I was crying, like tears. And I just saw now everybody else crying because they had realized she was gone. My sister said she's gone. Peter was holding her. And now everybody was crying. And the tears are coming, but I'm like, it is well. It is well. Baby, it is well. It is well with you. You've done it. You've done it. It is well. Peter came, sat next to me. And, we are smiling. You know why it's so weird? Because I saw that picture and I wondered, God, what were you doing here? Because that was not a natural response we would have. The picture shows our eyes are puffy and red, but we are literally smiling like a photo shoot. And when we asked them to go and call the doctor to come and now confirm time of death, of course, they do the liver test and everything. So it says 7:05? Time of death is 7:05. And I just wanted to hold her while he was undressing and checking everything and confirming. I was just holding her and I'm like, you look so peaceful. And all of a sudden it felt like her face, it was perfect. Like everything looked reconstructed. Even when I see her post-mortem pictures, that girl does not look like she was sick at all. I kid you not. The tubes made her look gravely ill. But when those things were out and she had rested, her resting face was perfect. She was fine. So I looked at her and I was like, okay, you knew what was coming and you have finished your assignment. You have done a complete job. Because if it's praying, if it's worshiping, if it's believing, if it's strengthening my faith, girl, you have been the working ground. You have done it. You have done it. I have gone to such extents I never thought I could ever go to in my life. I have forgotten about myself beyond my imagination. Everybody has a level of selfishness. Yeah, you want to self-preserve yourself. Yeah, it's self-preservation. Yeah, here I didn't have that. In fact, people, you'd remind me, you have to go and shower, you have to do this, Lynnette, you need to eat, you need to produce milk. And I forgot to mention, I remember milk production was a headache because I'm going through so much stress physically. I'm not sleeping, so there's no way I could get milk easily. So that was also a prayer item, believe in God for milk production. And me, for now, I tell people who say the second day or third day they've not gotten milk, I tell them, apart from the rest, you have to believe beyond a shadow of doubt that milk is going to come. You have to do it for yourself. No one can do it for you. Because I had to do it for myself. The nurses sometimes will tell me, why are you being lazy? Why are you not doing something? Like, Aki, I've tried to pump as much milk as I can. I've drunk, I used to drink, I don't know, I would finish a dozen in one day. Water. I was drinking, they had brought piles and piles of water bottles beside my bed. Because I was drinking, I was trying to feed. I was doing everything I could do possibly, but the only thing that I know worked was prayer. There's a day I actually removed, I think, 60 ml. And that was going to cover her for a couple of days because she could only take 10 to 15. That was a miracle, but it came from a place of total surrender to the Lord. Total. So Nessa had taught me that. And I was like, you've done your part. You've made people pray. You've made people have visions. People who never used to see visions started seeing visions. People who had the gift of prophecy that was hidden, it came out. Children in the hospital were getting healed. Mothers were getting born again. Their faith was being strengthened. In 2 weeks, girl, you've done everything. These are people who never get to do that in a lifetime. You did it in 2 weeks. So as much as I am missing you, and I feel so sad that you have left now, it is well, my baby. You have done it. You have done it. And another thing that now made me even happier was that Satan was ashamed. He thought just because Nessa did not survive that he had won. Every moment that she was in that hospital, there was a work of God at play. Every single moment. The nurses, there were nurses who were attached to that baby. The day I told them, I think there were some nurses on the 13th, when I told them that Nessa had slept, 3 of them broke down. They cried. Then they said, what did we do wrong? What did we do? We tried everything. In fact, Nessa was going to be fine. I said, yes, she's actually fine. Nessa is fine. It's us who are grieving. But Nessa is actually fine. And by the time we're leaving, it's a statement we told to a lot of people. They said they had never seen such great faith in us. Truly, I had never seen such great faith in myself or even the people who are standing with us. It was great faith for me. And even if I was to die right now, because of whatever it is, I would have one thing that I was assured of, that God did in my heart and in my mind, that I was able to believe him till the very end. I did not stop believing him. And the odds, there was a fight between will and might. You know, there's a show of might in a particular matter. But then in the realm of the will, where you are confronted consistently with the carnal expectations of the world and the issues and the senses, and then you know what the Spirit of God is saying, and your will is in between. You have to shift the will to align itself to God's word. It's no easy thing, because the alternative is easier. It's not better, but it's easier to just say, wacha tu alale, tusimsumbue. No, he was like, no, you have to live. What does God's word say about you? You have to live. And I was so happy. I was like, even if I was to die, at least I believed till the very, very, very last moment, where I could see the life was out of her. Grief is almost, I wouldn't say almost as powerful, but it's almost as powerful as love, because it's heavy. And only that it's on the downside. It's on the downside, but it's equally heavy and can consume somebody. I started by saying that because as soon as we realized that we are not going to leave with Nessa from Kijabe, that is on the 13th. Actually, the night into the 13th, I remember typing and saying, I have no words, but let my tears speak for me. And may God's word testify of this emotion that I'm feeling. Because I didn't, what do you say? I'm hurting, I'm in pain, I'm sad, I'm confused, I'm joyful. Yes, but they don't quite capture the emotion that is there. And sometimes it's so powerful that it cripples you. You don't know whether you really even deserve to live anymore. I remember reading about, it's called, I think, parental survival guilt or something like that, survivor guilt. When you go through, there is survivor's guilt. So whenever you go through a traumatic experience and maybe you lose somebody and then you're the one who remains, you always feel maybe you should have been the one there, or you have self-blame. Maybe if you did things differently, the person would have been there. And for parents, it is psychologically proven that it's much heavier than most of the other traumatic experiences you might have. Because here, you are in the position of a provider, protector. And now you are unable to do that or give that to your child. And then worse still, they're taken away from you, and you imagine the future that they have. The grief that you're experiencing is not just about the memories that were created. No, it's the future that child will never have with you. And so you can't, everything is very hypothetical. And you can't even find a grounding to stand. And you're like, okay, so what should I believe anymore? And now everything in your future feels obscure, it's blurry, it doesn't have any backbone. Because if this happened to me in this manner, after everything I had done to invest in it, how sure am I that tomorrow this won't happen again, or even worse? And that is a reality that I had to deal with and accept. When I was saying that to my baby and I was telling God, I said, God, I don't have the words to express this. My tears, let them speak for me, and let your testimony be able to cover this. Let it deal with this. So I came with that resolve. That morning, I went to shower on the 14th. I took a bath, and I kept on praying in tongues. Because again, I didn't have the words. And the pain I was feeling, I couldn't articulate it. Because I'm not entirely shattered, but I feel I should be shattered. At the same time, I feel strengthened to still move on, to still smile. I still cannot, in all honesty, I cannot reconcile the two, because it feels like there's another person inside of me who is doing the living, who is actually doing the living. So on that day, I said, I'm not going to focus on my pain right now. I need to focus on what needs to be done. And that's a habit I have had over my upbringing. I focus on what needs to be done, and then we'll deal with the other things later. I didn't know when we were going to deal with those other things, and I didn't know how. So we said we're not doing a postmortem. We need to go with our baby to the morgue, get the baby embalmed as we plan for the funeral. So we carried our baby, went to the morgue. Of course, she had already been frozen. We prayed, we held her. I dressed her, changed her outfit, her stiff body, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, is this really happening to me? Or I wake up one day and find out, oh, okay, that was a very long and nasty dream. So I'm looking at her and I'm touching her cheeks. I'm like, you're actually dead. Huh? Your body is here. Your spirit is not here anymore. You're gone. So we gather and we pray and we get into the cars and we go to Nairobi and we arrive at the morgue. There's a group of people waiting for us and we're praying. And I was being told, let me just throw this one in there. There's one of those elderly aunties, but not my blood auntie, just auntie by virtue of proximity. She said, you should not mourn that much because you will hinder God from blessing you with other children. And first I thought, I think she's the one who's nuts. It can't be me. She's not well. So I will ignore her for now. And throughout that period, I didn't spend time with her because I felt she didn't know any better, but that's not excusable. I didn't want whatever ignorance she had to affect me in any way. I need to keep my head focused. So while she was telling me that, I was like, I don't want that. Because you get sometimes things like that. If you stay so much in your pain, you might not be able to move on. And I understand there's a truth to that. But you need to let the person acknowledge their pain, the weight of it all. So they're able to appreciate what Christ can do to get them out of that space. Otherwise, they'll always be in limbo and they'll keep falling from bouncing one addiction to the other, or just relapsing into some very dark space in their minds. So I had to be led to deal with the things I need to deal with in my own way. And I thank God people let me. Apart from that statement, people let me. They were not sure if I was faking, that I was not mourning as expected, or I was probably, disillusioned. They didn't know. They just saw me moving. But in my mind, I knew I had to finish this. Let's bury her. Let's heal physically. And then let's see what will happen next, which I didn't know. Now, in that journey of waiting for whatever was to happen next, I personally chose, it was my decision, that I want God to manage me the best way He knew me to be managed. Because I didn't want to copy someone else's, recovery from grief plan. Yeah, there are very many ways to do it. But I felt like if I was to go by a textbook, I'll get lost into that because of how I am wired. I already have hindrances or limitations in dealing with very painful situations in my life. So I needed God to work that out and help me start to see things from His perspective. So yes, I surrendered. I told God, I will do what I can now. I will sit in the moment now. And because I'm not ready to deal with some things, that 14 days of terror, the way I'm talking about it now as if, but I could not process the pain and the markers, the trauma markers that were left in my body for those 14 days and even before. I didn't want to go there because I felt I didn't have strength. But I told God, I'm going to wait until such a time you will strengthen me. In the meantime, I'm going to still pray. I'm going to still read your word. I'm still going to minister. As long as you'll send somebody my way and I have the strength, I will do it. Because I know that is one of the reasons why I'm here. Apart from making money, I'm here to teach your word, to bring enlightenment to your people. I am still going to hope for a better tomorrow. And when I say that, it's because I have the backdrop of the prophecy. God can't lie. So it's either I am the liar or Satan is, but it cannot be him. So there is a truth that has not yet been realized. And so I said, I'm going to hope. Even when I'm afraid, I'm going to hope for something better. So that period, I remember when we were having her interment service, everybody keeps telling me that they were not sure who they were dealing with on that pulpit, because I looked like I had everything together. I didn't have everything together. I was being myself, the self that I could be at that day. I didn't know any other thing to be. And when I would, you see, I couldn't even cry a lot, because if I cry, I'm hurting. Like I can't go into an uncontrollable fit because my stomach is paining. So I have to cry with some decorum. And I hold my stomach and I cry. I tell God, please don't let the stitches come off. Because now that would be another tragedy I'm not ready to deal with. So I just did what I could with what I knew. I listened to people talk around me, people mourn around me. I did not want to interfere with their mourning. And I'll say something very personal, and maybe it might not settle well with many people, because everybody takes grief very personally. They hold on to it. It is mine, you know. But sometimes allow people to share. Let them also mourn. They're not mourning like you. They're mourning in their way. Let them deal with their pain of what has happened to you the best way they can. Of course, put boundaries if it's going to hurt you as well. Like if somebody is going into a violent fit, you can't say, let's just go together in that way. No, you protect yourself. But let the person mourn. And you concentrate on what God is doing in you and for you. That way, you don't also have to be distracted and delay God's healing process for you. You don't have to. Stay with God's plan. If today you don't feel like going to work and it's crippling, present that to God and talk to Him sincerely. Tell Him, I am hurting and I'm upset. And this is how I feel about this moment. I don't know how to feel any better about this moment, and talk about it. And if truly you have a relationship with your Father and you're sincere, once you're done with that vent mode, the Holy Spirit has a way of tweaking your response to pain, the response to the situation you're going through. He turns it and He starts to make you confess the Word of God. If you take a moment and think about the moments that you've been really hurt, you'll start saying, you'll find that, and you've really vented. You'll find saying, but God, you are faithful. I'm going to trust you. That is the work of the Holy Spirit. To reassure your soulish realm about a mystery that you also don't understand. Because the mystery is actually in the word of grace. We don't understand why grace is the way it is. Nobody understands it. When grace becomes personified, we don't understand Jesus as well, you know. But we know in that mystery, there is a hope for you and me. And it is now our choice to cling to that hope. So what did Lynnette do? When Lynnette needed to cry, should cry. Because in the supermarket, I'm walking, I'm seeing people who know me, who probably didn't understand what happened. They'll say, ala, amekuja. Nikamwambia, alikuja. Congratulations, blah, 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 blah. Kanaendelea aje? Alafu akaenda. Then so we start to laugh. They're like, alienda wapi? Alienda penye alitoka. Yeah? She went back to the Lord. So it always catches them unawares, and I could understand, because there's no other way to break it to them. Mtu alikufa. No, the baby is dead. You can't, I just find creative ways. And I would see the sadness and I would tell them, no, don't worry. You don't have to say anything to try and make me feel better. If it's making you feel uncomfortable, you're in the right space. Even me, it's uncomfortable. So it's okay. So I let myself cry in pharmacies. I let myself cry in hospitals. The funny thing is, my cousin gave birth a few months after that situation. And I was the one person who had to be there to take care of that little baby. And I would hold her, and I had to fight the feeling of putting her here, near my breasts. I had to fight the feeling of seeing my daughter in her, because this girl, maybe she has met my daughter Nessa, but while she's here on earth, she's not Nessa. And I cannot deny the other mother the pleasures of enjoying her newborn baby, because I am grieving. And I start imposing and projecting on this child. So I had to pray. When I would hold her, I would pray and say, God, help me. You can see the state of my heart. You can see my mind is not in the right place. Just help me to be a blessing to this baby and my cousin. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not asking for anything else. And with that, I would lull the baby to sleep. I would sleep with the baby sometimes. That was it. Or go and when the baby is crying, I take the baby, I come and I stay. So that I didn't want, and I protected my faith to the best of my abilities. Maybe I didn't do a perfect job, but I tried. So I read my word, I prayed, I did God's work. When I needed to shut down, when it came to crying, and I could. When I couldn't, and I needed to cry, but I couldn't, I didn't cry. You could see my eyes welling up, and I would suppress it because at that moment I can't. I don't know who I'm going to be at that moment, and I can't be a wild card at that moment. So I allowed God. If you're hearing me, allow God to minister to you the way He knows how to. Don't dictate how you want to heal. If you do that, you'll set yourself up for failure. You'll open doorways that the enemy will use to frustrate you the more. Because every time we set a plan that is contrary to God's plan, something breaks within us when that plan doesn't materialize in that way. And it's harder for us to recover. So I at this moment, I never had an issue talking about her. In fact, when somebody asked me, I would talk, of course, in summary form. Tears would roll down my cheeks. But I would never go into that place like I've done today. I would reserve it for another day. I was always looking forward to another day, another day, another day. So now that I'm able to speak about it and not even edit what I feel, I know God is ministering to me in this moment the best way He knows I need to be ministered to. I don't have my defenses up. And I'm not trying to be logical about a supernatural thing. Death is a mystery. Why the human heart stops, nobody will, even if you say it's diseases or the heart failure, where does that come from? Like, who died and made it, something that has to be by script, that will die in such a way? Why people die, no one knows, but it is here. So why should I waste my time trying to really redefine and reinvent the wheel in understanding how the mystery of death has come, as opposed to allowing the one who understands it deal with the pain and the uncertainty I have in my heart? That's all I want in my life. And it doesn't make me superhuman. I'm not. I feel the emotions. I remember months after her death, I started wondering, should I have been sleeping? I should have been there 24/7. If I knew she was going to die, I would not have let any single second pass without me being there. I started dealing with that. So then I started going through the shame. I'm like, Kai, you can actually go to hospital and live without a child. And then I explain every single time. Okay, you can pray for healing for somebody else and you can't pray for your child. Really? And then your child dies. What? Then I started dealing with the fact, Amma, it's the way I was working when I was pregnant. I should have taken a break. I should have eaten this. Or is it that me and Peter are not healthy? You have all those questions in your mind and you're trying to really that's the logical, but you're trying to make sense of how did this situation escalate to such a point where you're burying your child. I couldn't understand. And up to now, everything still doesn't make sense. Like, if I go biologically, they say, okay, if you are above a certain age, then this is more likely to happen to you. But a lot of the tests have been done with people who are below 35, such things. You're like, okay, so which is which? Medically, it's not making sense. You go to the, just generally conversations, you're like, okay, where, how, what could I have done differently that probably have prevented this? It doesn't make sense. And I know many women and fathers, parents in general, who probably are dealing with something similar to mine. Maybe they lost a child in an unexplainable way, medically, or a tragic event. Or even probably they've gotten a disease that they are now dealing with They have to manage this child. They have to be their primary caregivers, and they don't even know head or tail. And they're wondering, God, why is this cup mine? I'm not saying give it to somebody else, but did it have to come to me? You know? And must I drink from it? What I can tell you is don't waste your energy always trying to make sense of the situation. So receive the grace that God has given you for that day. Receive it. If it's to cry and throw your cup because you don't understand why your child is not eating, throw that cup there. Cry with the child. Cry and cry until your tears have run out. Then recollect yourself and say, God, thank you that I even had strength to cry, because I would have done worse. I would have harmed my child, or I would have harmed myself. So thank you, I've gotten out of that one. Now what do we do? And you ask and you wait for a response. If that day is that you're going to celebrate and enjoy a birthday on the same day that your child died, you go and show up and thank God. Thank you that I even have the strength and the will to celebrate this day, because it's not obvious. I don't want to figure out the mystery behind it. However, Lord, should a moment in my life come that you're going to make sense of all this, I am ready. Jesus, I'm ready. I'm ready to hear you. And I'm open. I'm not going to be angry at you, because it doesn't give me anything except frustration and bitterness. I want to know you more so that I can be more grounded in this life, because there's so much more you're going to face. This is just part of it. We're assured that we're going to go through trials, but we're also assured that we will be victorious. So let me wait for the victory. If you really, if you pay attention to what God has planned for you, you will also start to see what the enemy wants to do, to distort and to destroy that plan. So we have just, let me give that statement context. We've just buried our daughter. It's 3 weeks after the burial of our daughter. And we are going to visit a mutual friend and also be a blessing to him and just minister to him, etc. So we are along, now it's called, I think, Odinga Highway or Road, yeah? But in the past it was called Mbagathi Way. And we took a taxi, so an Uber. So we're my husband and myself and my son. And so we're driving. We have this pleasant lady driver, so we're having conversation, etc., etc. All of a sudden, we just hear a bang on the right side, a loud bang, and the car starts spinning out of control. And the driver, she starts screaming because, of course, there's an accident that is happening, literally. So she's just screaming, and she's not holding the steering anymore. So I can see there's potential here for worse things to happen. So I talk about my Jesus. I say, Jesus, save us. And I tell her, can you hold that steering wheel now? Stop screaming. Because I'm like, no, the screaming is not helping us. And as much as Jesus wants to save us, he likes to use people, you know? So I think you're the one. So I stopped her, and she finally got a hold of the steering and gripped it, and she brought the car to a standstill. So I just quiet. Who's sitting on the right side? It's my husband. My son and I are on the left side. So he gets the brunt of the impact, and you look at the car, at the front and the back, yeah, it's not mangled, but it's not looking pretty. And of course, there are no scratches. Thank God we walked out scratchless, but there's a trauma marker that has already been imprinted in all of us. The woman is still crying. My husband and I get out, and I'm still healing. It's 1 month since CS. Is it? Yeah, about a month or a month and a half. And I'm holding my son. So we find a place and sit, a crowd gathers, and we go and see the guy. My husband goes to see the gentleman who had caused the accident. He had, I think it was a Fortuner or something like that, and the guy was speeding. To make matters worse, the guy was drunk. And he picks up an arrogant attitude, and he starts, he's not talking with any reservation. So the crowd starts gathering around him, and you know how the mob mentality works, because if we had not intervened, he probably would have been lynched, because they could tell he was drunk. So my husband walks there quickly, and he starts defending this man. and tell him, don't do that, don't, in Kiswahili, don't do that, don't, it's not necessary. We're the ones who have been hurt and we're not doing anything. So you stopped. Leave us, let's go and have a conversation. Because the border guys, they were riled up. They were ready, they were begging for blood. So anyway, we move and he comes to where we are. That time the cops have been called because they're not so far away, so they come. And when he asks, is anybody hurt? We say no. Then he says, okay, see, nobody's hurt. No, has anybody died? We say no. Yeah. There's anybody died? We say no. Then he said, yeah, okay, that's good. Then he said, I have been spending the whole night saving people like you or taking care of people like you. And so I wonder, where is that coming from? The guy's eyes are bloodshot, he's reeking of alcohol, and he was speeding in broad daylight. It was about noon. So it's not early morning or it's not late night where you can assume that something is off. So we knew that already he has a problem. He's not well. Anyway, we let the legal system take its course because the car was not ours. So we had to let the Uber driver go together with the police. And the police now, usually they would sit in the car with the driver who's involved, the one who caused the accident, and he would drive or she would drive and they would go to the police station. But this guy was so intoxicated they could not trust him to be behind the wheel. Yes, he was that bad. So they found somebody who drove it and they towed the other car. So we were wondering, what is this great thing that we have that requires us to stop focusing on it or the Lord and focus on our problems or even take us out completely? It's that great thing that we are waiting to behold. Maybe it's the coming of Jesus. We'll be at the forefront. But anywho, I know there is something special that God has assigned to my family. And I don't think it's only me. It's every single person in this place has a beautiful assignment. And the enemy will throw anything that he has in his heart to deter you from fulfilling God's purposes through you. So be vigilant. We're told not to be ignorant of his devices, but more so, still behold the Lord, still behold Christ. That way you have strength and you're not dissuaded. You will find courage to still move forward, the boldness that he gives through his Holy Spirit. And I think in part of my conversations, I've spoken about the promise that he gave before I thought I could get married or have children. He already had a plan in motion for me. And in spite of what the enemy had tried to do, he cut short the destiny of that little girl, but didn't know that he had fulfilled actually her purpose here by doing that. I still hoped. I still leaned back on that promise. Secretly, I was like, God, you said it. So, okay, I'm going to believe it. But I don't know when. But I hope it's not now. So as time went by, lo and behold, I find I'm pregnant. Exactly a year after my daughter was born. In fact, it was a few days just before her birthday that I find out I'm pregnant. And that did not make sense to me because, as per my son said, as per my calculations, that should not be the case. So when I look at the test, the pregnancy test, I start crying uncontrollably because I tell God, I'm not yet healed. I'm not ready. And this is not a pleasant surprise. Contrary to popular belief, it's not very pleasant for me right now. Secondly, medically, even after 1 year, I should not be pregnant. I should give it maybe 18 months. Spiritually, I know you said it, but I had not thought it was going to happen this soon. So, let me give a bit of context, just a short bit of context, is that I remember somebody had a dream. No, several people had dreams about my other child, the one who's coming, or who had just come. And I was like, okay, amen, I receive it. Thank you, amen, I receive it. But of course it was, it's in the very far future. Because right now, I'm healing, I'm trying to get back to work. I'm just trying to get me back after all that experience. So I'm not expecting any peas in any pods anytime soon. So the person had a dream, this specific person had a dream, and in that dream, the interpretation was basically, I need to let go of the pain, let go of whatever it was in the past, because God is giving me another baby, and I need to focus on this baby. Otherwise, a repeat would happen. I had that, I was like, what do you mean? There's no repeat, number one. Then this baby, when they come, I'll be ready, but it's definitely not now. So I took it as a marker from the Lord that I am still going to restore you. So be ready for that. But I didn't imagine it was that soon. So after 1 year, I find out I'm pregnant. I'm in the bathroom and I cry like I just lost $1 million in silly patches. I mourn. So Peter comes and says, what is it? I tell him, yeah, I'm pregnant. He immediately starts praying. He didn't use English. He went into tongues. And that is the beauty of having somebody who is yielded to the Spirit of God. A person who submits to, he might not be perfect, I know, that man. But if he's yielded to God and the leading of the Spirit, you have an asset in that house. So he starts praying, and he prayed until I stopped crying. Then I said, okay, God, it's okay. And we started another journey. It was also very difficult because I had to be on bed rest from the 5th month. And I was like, I can't go through this again, Lord. But you said, you said, okay, I'ma believe it. And at 36 weeks, 35. It was 35 weeks, yes? No, at 36 weeks, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Her name is Nisi. And today is her birthday, her 2nd year. She's just turned 2, a terrific 2. Yes. And I am so grateful to God because there's a song that says, Baba unajua kunifurahisha. It's by a Tanzanian gospel musician. It means, Lord, you know how to give me joy, or to restore joy, or to make me happy. And he knew how to do that. I'm not saying that this baby replaced the other baby, but it is even behind the scenes, how he filled my heart with joy and peace and telling me that I'm still here. And he is a small yet great demonstration of how much I love you and how much I'm a promise keeper. So I have a little girl. After all that, I got another little girl. I remember the doctor was telling me, this is going to be a boy. I said, no. God said, I'ma believe it. We even betted, but I chose not to take his money. I said, we're not going to put a price tag on it. Just know that you're going to lose, because God said. Yeah, God said. I am here because I love Jesus. I love him with all my heart. And people who know me in my corporate space, they know I love God. They know I'm always sleeping, the Lord, the Father, Jesus, grace. And I'm sure some of them will watch this video and they'll wonder, okay, this is Mrs. Process and everything that she has, everything put together, and she looks like she's an iron lady and she moves on. But there's this vulnerable side that she has never really shown us. I'm showing it to you because of the person I'm in love with. In this vulnerability, there is strength. And that strength is not of my own. I did not conjure it. It is by him. I look at Jesus and I see him empowering me in things I cannot do. I don't even see how I'm going to finish them. I didn't know I would finish this conversation and even look like I have my hair in the same space, or I thought I'd probably gone crazy. But I've seen him strengthening me even now. And I know he wants to bring credibility to his name. His name has been tainted. He's been made to look like a God who is distant, who doesn't care, who boasts in his sovereignty, and there's nothing to show of it except the mountains, the hills, the trees, their seasons. And when it comes to really personal issues, he's indifferent and says, yeah, you have free will, figure it out. I think I'm here to make a case for Jesus, that he loves and he's present. He is full of mercy and compassion. And more importantly, there is nothing he would not do to ensure that you and I get to experience the fullness of his love. And sometimes in that experience, pain can tag along, because there has to be an action and a reaction. You can't enjoy peace unless you have seen trouble. You can't enjoy love unless you have experienced pain and heartbreak. You'll appreciate it even the more when it's your story with him. It's your story with him. So I am here to make a case for my God, my Father, my Savior, my friend, my lover, that he heals, he restores, he strengthens. And if you are to follow his plan, there's nothing but goodness that will come. It may seem hard, it may seem confusing, but you need to look at the end. And he's at the end of it all. He's at the end of it all.